Okay, so welcome to another deep dive today. And today we're looking at something that I think we all struggle with at least a little bit, and that is how to speak clearly and confidently. And like, why does this even matter?
Oh, it matters a lot. I mean, when you speak clearly, people understand you better, right?
Yeah,
Which is obviously kind of important. And when you speak confidently well, it just makes you sound more, trustworthy and believable.
yeah, for sure. I mean, it's not just about making a good impression, though, right? I mean, it's also about, being able to express your ideas effectively in any situation, whether it's, at work or in your personal life or even just, ordering a coffee.
Oh, absolutely. And feeling good about it too, right? I mean,
Yeah.
there's nothing worse than feeling like you're fumbling over your words or that you're not being taken seriously because of the way you speak.
Exactly. So for this deep dive, you sent over this really interesting script, actually, from another podcast episode, all about common speaking mistakes that people make. And I thought it was a great starting point for, really unpacking this whole topic.
Yeah, I thought so too. It's really practical, It gets right to the heart of, the little things that we might be doing without even realizing it that are kind of holding us back.
Totally. So I guess our mission today is to kind of go through the script, pull out the most actionable advice, and give our listeners some concrete strategies that they can use to start speaking more clearly and confidently right away.
Sounds good to me. Let's do it.
All right, so where should we start? I mean, there's so many different aspects to speaking well.
Well, I think a logical place to start might be with the speed at which we speak. Because the script you sent over highlights talking too fast as being a major obstacle to clear communication. And it makes sense when you think about it.
Yeah. I mean, have you ever noticed, like, when someone's talking really fast, it's hard to keep up with what they're saying, and you kind of start to tune them out?
All the time. And it's not just about, the listener not being able to keep up. It's also that when you speak too fast, you tend to mumble more and you run out of breath, and it just makes you sound kind of nervous, even if you don't feel nervous.
Yeah, it's like your brain is working faster than your mouth can keep up.
Right. And it kind of makes it hard for the listener to process the information too,
Yeah.
because their brains are trying to catch up and they're missing things.
So what's the solution then? I mean, should we all just, like, start talking super slow?
Well, no, not exactly. I mean, obviously you don't want to sound like a robot, but the key is to be more mindful of your pace and to use pauses strategically.
Okay, so pauses. That's interesting. I mean, I never really thought about pauses as being like a tool for speaking more effectively.
Well, they are really, because pauses give you and the listener time to breathe and to absorb what's being said. It's like creating space for the message to land.
So it's not just about slowing down, it's about pausing in the right places.
Exactly. And the script actually suggests that using pauses can even make you sound more confident, which I think is kind of cool.
How so?
Well, think about it. When you pause, it shows that you're in control. You're not rushing, you're taking your time. And that projects a sense of confidence.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's kind of like when a musician pauses before a big note.
Mm-hmm.
It builds anticipation.
Exactly. So if someone listening is thinking like, okay, maybe I talk a little too fast, what can they do to kind of figure that out and start, fixing it?
Well, the script has a couple of really practical suggestions.
Mm-hmm.
The first one is to record yourself speaking and then listen back to it.
Mm-hmm.
You might be surprised at how fast you're actually talking.
That's a good one because we often don't realize how we sound to other people.
Right. And the other suggestion is to practice reading aloud slowly, like almost exaggerating the slowness.
Yeah, that's a great exercise because it helps you to reset your internal sense of pace. It's like recalibrating your speedometer.
I love that analogy. Okay, so
Yeah.
we've talked about talking too fast. What's another common speaking mistake that the script mentions?
Well, the next one is having a monotone voice.
Oh, yeah, the dreaded monotone.
Yeah, it's a killer because when you speak in a monotone, it makes it really hard for people to stay engaged with what you're saying. It just sounds boring and lifeless.
It's like listening to a robot read a textbook.
Exactly. And the thing is, most people who speak in a monotone probably don't even realize they're doing it. It just feels normal to them.
So how do you fix it? I mean, how do you add more life to your voice?
Well, the key is to vary your pitch, to go up and down in your tone of voice and to emphasize certain words and phrases.
So it's like adding melody to a song.
Exactly. And the script suggests that you should raise your pitch when you want to emphasize something or to convey excitement, and that you should lower your pitch when you want to sound more serious or authoritative.
So it's all about using your voice to create different effects.
Right. And it also ties into the speed of your speech.
Right.
You can slow down when you want to emphasize a point or speed up when you're feeling excited.
So it's about combining all of these elements together to create a more dynamic and engaging delivery.
Exactly. And the script even makes this really cool analogy. It says that varying your pitch is like adding color to a drawing. It
Yeah.
makes it more interesting and visually appealing.
Oh, I love that. Okay, so we've covered talking too fast and speaking in a monotone. What's next?
Well, the next one is a bit more subtle, but it's just as important, and that is the habit of using an upward inflection at the end of sentences when you're making a statement.
Oh, yeah, the uptalk thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
where it sounds like you're asking a question, even though you're not.
Right, it's so common, and it can make you sound really uncertain even if you're not.
Exactly. It's like you're constantly seeking approval or validation from the listener.
So how do you break this habit?
Well, the first step is to become aware of it, to really listen to yourself and notice when you're doing it. And then the script recommends that you consciously lower your pitch at the end of your sentences when you're making a statement, to make it sound more definitive.
So it's like putting a period at the end of your sentence instead of a question mark.
Exactly. And it might feel a little weird at first, but it makes a huge difference in how you come across.
It makes you sound more confident and authoritative.
Exactly. All right, so we've talked about speed, tone, and inflection. What's next?
Well, the script also talks about the tendency to overcomplicate our sentences.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one, especially in professional settings where people sometimes think that using big words and complex grammar makes them sound smarter.
But it often has the opposite effect, right?
Mm.
I mean, it just makes it harder for the listener to understand what you're saying.
Exactly. And it can also make you sound kind of pretentious, like you're trying too hard to impress people.
Yeah, it's like when you're reading a really dense academic paper and you have to keep going back and rereading sentences because you're not sure what they mean.
Right. So the key here is to keep it simple.
Yeah.
To use short, clear sentences and to avoid jargon or technical terms that your listener might not understand.
It's about being clear and concise.
Exactly. And the script gives this really great advice for explaining complex topics. It says that you should break them down into smaller, more digestible chunks.
Yeah, that's a great tip because it makes it easier for the listener to follow your train of thought.
Right. It's like building a house. You start with the foundation and then you add the walls and the roof one piece at a time.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about speed, tone, inflection, sentence structure. What's the last speaking mistake that the script mentions?
The last one is speaking too softly.
Oh, yeah, that's a classic. I mean, if people can't hear you, they can't understand you.
Exactly. And it's not just about volume either. It's also about projection. Making sure that your voice carries to the back of the room.
So how do you project your voice more effectively?
Well, the script talks about the importance of diaphragmatic breathing, which is basically breathing from your belly rather than from your chest.
I've heard of that.
Yeah.
That like what singers do?
Yeah, exactly. It helps to support your voice and to give it more power.
So it's not about shouting, it's about using your breath correctly.
Right. And the script suggests that you practice speaking slightly louder than you normally would to kind of get used to the feeling of projecting your voice.
That's a good tip.
Woo!
Okay, so we've gone through all 5 of the common speaking mistakes that the script highlights, and we've talked about some strategies for addressing each of them. What's the takeaway here? I mean, what's the big picture?
Well, I think the big picture is that speaking clearly and confidently is a skill that anyone can learn. It's not something that you're either born with or you're not.
It's about being aware of your habits and then making small changes over time.
Exactly. And the more you practice, the better you'll get.
And it's not just about sounding good, it's about communicating effectively.
Right. It's about making sure that your message is heard and understood.
So to recap for our listeners, the 5 key areas that we've talked about today are slowing down, varying your pitch, avoiding uptalk, simplifying your sentences, and speaking with sufficient volume and projection.
And remember, it's not about being perfect, it's about progress.
Yeah. Just pick 1 or 2 things to focus on at a time and see what happens.
Exactly. And be patient with yourself. It takes time to develop new habits.
So here's a little challenge for our listeners as you go about your day today. Pay attention to how you're speaking and try to incorporate at least one of the techniques that we've talked about.
See what difference it makes in how you feel and how people respond to you.
You might be surprised at the results. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive,
It's been fun.
and we'll see you next time.
See ya.
Bye.